So picture this. You just beat Pokemon Legends ZA. A scene similar to the one at the end of X and Y happens, where there's a big ceremony in your name, and you get anointed for your achievements. But what happened in Pokemon X and Y in this moment? AZ shambles in, requests a battle from you, only to be reunited with its long-lost friend. And in this game, instead of AZ, it'll be Lysander. Except he's a zombie! And he's back to challenge you to one final battle, so he can eat your brains, because they're beautiful! Game Freak, don't hire this man. I will run this franchise to the ground. But some follow-up with Lysander and the other returning characters is definitely something I'm looking forward to seeing in Pokemon Legends ZA. Whether we'll get it, we don't know, but I would love to see something to do with, you know, the aftermath of Lysander, the aftermath of some of the characters from the past too, maybe even an appearance from the old player character. Instead of climbing atop Mount Silver, we climb atop Lumiose Tower, and he's waiting. Come on now. That's just one of the many things on my wacky wish list of Pokemon Legends ZA. And as we go through the list, I'm going to start off with things I really want to see or are kind of guaranteed to happen, and we're going to get more and more obscure as the list goes on. And I'm almost certain that my list is just not really going to match yours. I got some pretty out there wacky tobacky stuff. So do be sure to let me know what your hopes are, your out there predictions are in the comments. I'm gonna have a lot of fun reading them. So we've talked about how much I want returning characters to at least get some sort of lore about them. I think the other definite thing I want to see is some sort of redemption arc for AZ and Zygarde. Easily one of the most anticipated things about this game from a long-time fan perspective is just what they're gonna do with the Z in Pokemon X, Y, and Z. AZ being this guy that was like in jail and then shambles towards you at the end game with some randomly weird cut of floette, and Zygarde being a Pokemon you find in some random fuck-off cave. Yeah, they were not given the limelight they deserved. And personally, while I've not looked at any of those Mega Leagues, I don't know if there's any Gen 6 stuff in there, it is just blatantly obvious how rushed these games were. A whole entire area of the game in the power plot just goes entirely unused. The aforementioned Zygarde and AZ just being these afterthoughts. They couldn't even be bothered to get their thing that blocks progress thing correct neither. Do you remember when you first enter Lumiose City, there's a guy blocking the way because there's a blackout, and yet you can still somehow see NPCs passing by. And yeah, let's not forget that they bothered to give Team Flare Grunt number 7 a 3D intro when you battle them, but not the champion of the fucking game. Yeah, the game was rushed. Bloody hell, the game was rushed. Zygarde and AZ getting some sort of redemption arc, or just an arc as a whole, would be fantastic. And I'm very much expecting that. Something that I would also like to see as well is more detective-related things. I asked my fiance and she actually had no idea about this. But once you beat the game, you can actually have a chat with Looker, and he ends up having some like detective cases for you. Think of this as like X and Y's version of the Delta episode. It was kind of like a post-game story, introduced some new characters with a bit of an interesting story, and kind of just wrapped its own self up before Looker disappeared forever like he tends to do. Why is he in so many games? I mean, I'm not complaining really. He's just a really nice guy, isn't it? Considering we saw Emma, Looker's protege, and with the Mega Victory Bell short kind of going by this whole case closed detective aesthetic towards the beginning and the end, it's safe to say they've got more detective stuff in the works. How involved we're gonna be is yet to be considered, but I'd love to see more of that sort of thing for sure. And the other like near guaranteed thing that I want to talk about is Mega Evolution. I've already been a big fan of how they've gone about the marketing. You can see the previous video I talk about that. But if there's something that would be remiss if they didn't do is actually make the Megas interesting to use in the game. I don't know if it's been that long where we've all forgotten, but like, wasn't there like less than a handful of trainers that used Mega Evolution for the entirety of X and Y? And then you got like most of the Mega Stones after you beat the game, and you had to wait for a specific hour of the day to collect them. Yeah, can we like not do that ever again, please? Oh, don't get me wrong, I was one of those weird people that actually liked the idea of having an hour time span to collect a bunch of these rare stones. I think it's fair to say we don't want that again, right? But it's fair to say I want Megas to have a much more involved role in the actual story. It seems like from what we've seen, there's like rogue Mega Evolutions. You can do like raids and stuff in the story, which would be an interesting way of incorporating them into the game. But considering the whole gameplay loop seems to be like you catch stuff during the day and you battle at night, it would be a bit disappointing if some of these nighttime trainers don't have Mega Evolution, especially as you climb up the ranks. I want to start seeing more Mega Evolution, some more tough trainers, you know, that's definitely the kind of thing I'm going for. With the whole new battle system they've introduced, I definitely want them to go gung-ho on this sort of thing, and Mega Evolution is perfect for that. If they don't, I will consider this a bit of a disappointment for sure. Another thing I'm definitely hoping for Pokemon Legends ZA is some sort of DLC. The fact that Pokemon Legends Arceus didn't get any was honestly a bit of a crime. And if this ends up being just as fun as that game, I know I'm going to want to explore way more of the region. So having DLC can be a very interesting way to expand the world or just give me more stuff to do. And I did have thoughts on what the DLC could be, like something to do with like expeditions to more remote regions of like Kalos. But then Game Freak decided to make my wish their command anyway. The announcement of Mega Dimensions DLC coming out 4 months after release. Yeah, they seem to have got a mixed reception from the internet, and I kind of get it. So much so, I'm going to have another video coming out soon where I'm going to talk about all the controversies that have happened since the Nintendo Direct that was secretly actually a Pokemon Direct. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I wanted DLC, and I guess I got it. Those are the things I'm more so expecting from PLZA. If they don't really necessarily give me as much of any of these I'd like, I'd be a bit disappointed with the game. But let's go on to some things that are a bit like, will they, won't they? I think while the gameplay loop right now seems quite solid, I would love for them to introduce side quests again from Pokemon Legends Arceus. I mean, I say that as if we don't know they're already back, but what I mean is that they give us a bit more quality over quantity. I think a problem with a lot of the side quests in Pokemon Legends Arceus is that a lot of them were just simply getting a Pokemon or giving someone something, and that was just kind of it. I mean, stopping Drift Nonce over here was pretty alright, but I need something with a bit more meat on the bone, you know? I'm hoping, especially since we get to explore a big city like Lumiose, especially with the whole detective angle going on, the side quests end up being a bit more expansive. If there is something I absolutely love about Pokemon, it's the world building. And what a better way to build a world than just have like mini story arcs involving smaller characters. Legends Arceus took us on the angle of people and Pokemon starting to work together. Maybe in Lumiose City, where people and Pokemon have already firmly worked together, there could be some sort of like situations. Is a trainer having a problem teaching their Pokemon a move? Maybe you could help it via battle. Is there a bit of a territorial war going on between two ground-type Pokemon for which Sandy Patch is theirs? Something for you to sort out. Or is there a guy that just wants to open a coffee shop but isn't sure which Pokemon he wants to have as his like barista? So you help him catch various Pokemon to see who's going to be his second in command. I don't know. Really small things that can really give this world a bit more depth. I'm mainly saying this because one of my favorite bits about Scarlet and Violet's DLC was Perrin. If you were unfortunate enough to miss her quest, she was a character you first met in the Kitakami DLC, where if you ended up filling your Pokedex to an adequate amount, she ends up taking you on an expedition with her to catch the ever so rare Blood Moon Ursaluna. And even though it was a really cool Pokemon to catch that I was not expecting, being able to hang out and just learn about her and just hearing her talk was just very, very interesting. You figure out she has her own insecurities about being a photographer, which I just thought was very down to earth. Leaning on that sort of thing in PLZA would be absolutely brilliant, and I honestly really hope they go down that angle with the side quests. And another thing I'm just only kind of hoping for is I hope Lumiose City's like big, like really big. I don't know about you, but one of my favorite things about Lumiose in X and Y is this city was just so fuck off huge, I'd get lost in it like all of the time. And I'd find like these weird cafes that I don't even know if I was supposed to be in. I think there's this cafe where like you go in and like you do battles instead, and I think I just found that place on accident. There's something about getting lost in this really big city that seems quite appealing to me. And while it wouldn't be very intuitive from a gameplay perspective, I love the idea of getting lost in a big city. And if I do need to get somewhere desperately, I can always just hail a taxi. So make Lumiose City big and beautiful, okay? Big, beautiful city, all right? Come on, Game Freak, you know what to do. It's the only city we're being in, so we gotta make it big, all right? In the same way that PLA expanded on catching Pokemon, in the sense that you had to catch a Pokemon and get 10 research points to log them in your Pokedex proper, some sort of equivalent for battling would be amazing. Again, I don't know how they'd implement this, but considering how much fun it was to collect Pokemon in PLA, and battling seems to be the choice of the methodology with this game, expanding upon the battles a bit more would be very, very interesting. Scarlet and Violet kind of did this in the sense that you had to like feint Pokemon in order to grab their resources to craft TMs. Maybe in order for your Pokemon to learn a new move, you have to like practice with that move to like get it up to speed so it can learn it proper. Like maybe, yeah, as your Pokemon learns a new move, maybe it doesn't really have as much PP because it's not experienced in learning it, so you kind of have to use it a bit more to get the hang of it. And then as your Pokemon gets the hang of it, it learns it proper. And then if you use it even more after that, it learns the more advanced version. So think of like the agile, strong style, that sort of thing, you know, implementing that gimmick again, but expanding upon it. Something where the battle system is a lot more intricate would be a lot more fun to delve into. They've already done quite a good job of that with the real-time stuff, so that seems interesting, but a little more sauce is what I'm looking for, hopefully, when I play the game proper. And another thing I'm hoping for is the Ghost Girl. That fucking Ghost Girl that I hate. If you guys don't remember, there was a rather ghostly girl in Pokemon X and Y that just ended up being a bit spooky. If I'm trying to mind read Game Freak, I wouldn't be shocked if that was their kind of response to the creepypastas of the 2000s. I know what your deal is, Game Freak employee. I know what you did. Or maybe it's a reference to some sort of, you know, Japanese ghost story. They have a lot of those. But considering in the Mega Victory Bell short, if you pause it at just the right time, you can see the ghostly girl in the window. They're obviously trying to do something in relation to that, right? Teasing it in this short, but not having it anywhere in the game would be a missed opportunity. So I'm really hoping they do something with that. Now we get into my more out there wish list prediction things. And I think the top of this has to be the Friend Safari. Game Freak, please. the Friend Safari was kind of sick. For those of you who don't remember, the Friend Safari was this spot you could go to, and every single person on your friends list contributed to a different set of 3 Pokemon. Like, every single friend had 3 Pokemon that you were only able to find because you got that friend. The set of 3 Pokemon were all unified by a single type and could not be changed by any means. Well, I was already a Gerson by the time X and Y came out. I'd like to imagine there's at least some of you guys who went to school the next day, exchanged friend codes to get Friend Safari spots, and then the one who had like the lamest Pokemon got made fun of. If there's one person with a story like that, please let me know. That just sounds really funny. You also had increased shiny odds, so it was kind of neat to see like a friend had like a Pokemon you wanted to shiny hunt. It was just kind of a nice little cool extra feature to incentivize you to become friends with people. Far be it from a Nintendo game to want people to make friends. They're definitely allergic to that, and for good reason. It seems like they've implemented zones to like zone off the different areas in Pokemon. How about a zone S for Safari, the Friend Safari? You pick someone on your friends list, or pick maybe a couple of people from your friends list, and the area ends up spawning those Pokemon. Maybe you can even make it like a thing where like every couple of months, every Friend Safari friend Pokemon resets. Like it'll be like a great Friend Safari reset. It'll be like a big event to see whose friends end up getting shuffling. I don't know, they could make something fun of this, and it'd be really cool if they did, but I'm not expecting it. Another thing I'd like to see again is the player search system. How did X and Y invent like the easiest to use and simplest online system, and they just never did it again? Festival Plaza, I don't want to see it. The Ycom, that was okay. SV simplified things and it worked well enough, but I don't know, the player search system just worked really well. If you guys don't know, it kind of separated your friends at the top to acquaintances, people you've interacted with before, and strangers at the very bottom. Being able to interact with your friends at the touch of a button was really nice. And if you happen to like interact with a stranger out of nowhere, so someone requested you a trade and like you end up finding something cool, they'd end up going into your acquaintances section so you can interact with them again. Now, I suppose maybe you could argue it was a bit annoying to just get like random requests from strangers, I suppose. But like some of my favorite battles I've ever had and trades I ever did during X and Y and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire was just random people hitting me up and seeing what they could come up with. And I don't know, there was just something really funny about someone requesting a trade from you. And because there's no like speaking system, they'd have like nicknames of their Pokemon with the Pokemon they want. You know what I mean? It was just like, I'm not even kidding. I had like an entire box of Delibird that I dedicated to like phrases so that I could talk to people and get trades. And I ended up working because that's the first game I ended up collecting every Pokemon in. So having the player search system and having these like random interactions with players, it was just really fun. And having that sort of like randomness come back again would be amazing. And if you're not going to implement that, if you do bring back raids from SV and Sword and Shield, can you at least make it so that I can join a raid with a friend and then open up the lobby to strangers? Because it's really annoying that I squad up with my fiance and I have to use AI. I either have to invite 2 other people, or I can't just like I can't just open up the lobby to people. Can you let me open up the lobby to people, please? At least do that. At least do that. Forget the player searches thing I said. Let me squad up with someone as a duo or a triple and get a random in instead of a fucking AI, okay? Damn clap. The last of my out there predictions, and I have to thank the person who said this in my live chat, whose name I've forgotten. I'm sorry, I love you a long time. While I was brainstorming these ideas, was the destructible battle terrain. This is a feature I completely forgot was in X and Y. But while you're battling, some background elements look different from others. And from what I remember, it was pretty Hanna-Barbera-esque. You could clearly see what was able to be knocked down. But if you used a move that kind of spread out into the background, say Surf, for example, it ended up knocking that terrain down, you'd get an extra item for it. I don't know how that'd work in ZA since you don't go to like a separate zone to battle like you did in the old games. But, I mean, it's something that would be kind of cool, right? Oh, you could make it work like I think it's called the Tumblestones. You know, there's like ores that you could knock down in Pokemon Legends Arceus to like get extra materials to make Pokeballs. Maybe you can do that, but instead like ores only spawn if the battle is in play. I don't know. They could make something work of this, and I think it'd be quite interesting, but it is a bit out there since battles don't take place on a different zone, as I mentioned. And while we're still tangentially talking about the topic of features that Game Freak and the player base forgot, do you guys remember trainer PR videos? Yeah, if you clicked on someone's profile on the player search system, there was a little button called Trainer PR Video. It's only appeared if someone was playing on X and Y and not Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. But essentially, you could go into the PR studio place in Lumio City and make like a quick 10-second video of yourself or your Pokemon. They were very, strange, to put it mildly. Seriously, go put on a compilation of trainer PR videos. I ended up stumbling upon a trainer PR video compilation, and I had a bit of a laugh. I need to dig up my old copy of the game and see what my one was. If I find it, I'll post it somewhere, I promise. And I've got one final section of my notes, which is labeled Blue Moon, and I've only got one spot, which is the shiny sound. Game Freak, please. Please bring back that godforsaken shiny sound. Give me that shiny sound, and my life is yours. But I've saved the best for last. It might be the most boring, but I think it portrays my thoughts the most accurately. Pokemon Legends EA, please just be good. Please. I was definitely one of those fans that, when the era of Sword and Shield, I was becoming very much disillusioned with Pokemon. To the point where I was going to declare Pokemon Legends Arceus my final game. If it didn't turn out to be the game I wanted Pokemon to be, I would have just happily left the series by the wayside. And with so many games for me out there to play, I would have happily just pulled up a stake and relegated Pokemon to the realms of my childhood. But Legends Arceus did not only meet my expectations, it exceeded it. It was a fantastic game, a wonderful breath of fresh air, and reignited my love for the series. With Scarlet and Violet, while far from being perfect, kept that flame going ever so brightly. I just recently finished the Switch 2 playthrough, and yeah, that game still holds up, as it did all those years ago. It's coming up to 3 now, can you believe it? My ultimate wish is that PLZA ends up being good. And my prediction is, it will be. I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but optimistic nonetheless. In the same way, I had a lot of optimism about you reaching the end of the video. Thank you so much. As I said before, be sure to let me know your predictions, your wish lists, your hopes, your copes, what you think down in the description. My next video is going to be a Generation 1 ranking. We'll do like a mini series where I tier list all of the generations worth of Pokemon. You'll get an idea as to what my favorites and not so favorites are, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. And until next time, there's your lot.